Hi, everyone. My name is Frank Smith. I also am known as Frank the Model.
What do you think people's first impression of you is?
Um, so I think people's first impression of me, I'm an actor. So a lot of the times people are always judging me. I'm going in acting classes and I have to fit some sort of character, some sort of some guy in a movie, right? It's either going to be this guy or this guy or this guy. So a lot of the times I'm receiving that criticism, or not really criticism, but judgment a lot. So what I hear from people is I am a player, right? I look like a player, meaning if you don't know what that means, it's like somebody who doesn't care about women and like who's just, who gets all the girls, nobody, he doesn't try too hard and stuff like that in that department. So I get that a lot. And that's partially true. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. So, so I get ladies man player sort of thing a lot. I get dumb jock sort of vibes a lot of the times. Yeah. And then I also get, after that's when people first look at me. But then after like a couple of minutes of talking to me, they sort of, say I'm a sweetheart sort of thing. So it kind of goes in that direction.
So you mentioned in the beginning that you're an actor and you play all these roles, and so you're constantly getting judged. Are your descriptions you just gave what you think when you walk into an audition, or your perception of being out in everyday world?
It would just be, just looking at my picture. Like people will just look at my picture, and that's how it goes in the acting industry. Like I'll send them my headshot and like maybe one other picture, and before they even look up any of the stuff I've done or anything like that, they're already making a judgment about what my picture looks like. So it works the same way in day-to-day life, I assume. Like I'm making judgments about people all the time. A lot of times I don't say, I keep it to myself, but in entertainment, you have to kind of like talk about it. So I think I think people are taking the sweethearts, flirty kind of guy thing just from looking at me, just automatically, and like maybe listening to me talk for like 10 seconds.
Great.
Which I'm cool.
Well, yeah, I think being thought of as a sweetheart would be a good thing,
Yeah.
right? No, I think that you're right. We do make judgments about people all the time, which is how this interview process show came to be. That's how I want to know your story came to be, because I found myself doing that too. And I think our natural competitive nature as human beings is sometimes to be better than the next person. And so sometimes those judgments aren't always positive, and I didn't feel that was fair. Talked about acting. Let's talk about your journey to that. Where are you from? How did that become like something that you wanted to do?
Yeah. So I am an LA native. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. So I've always grown up around sort of not the industry, but I'm like right next to Hollywood. I can see that from like my mom's house where my bedroom was. It's like a window I can see the Hollywood sign from. So it's like, I was always in that sort of, maybe I could do it. I never really thought about doing it or anything like that, pursuing acting or anything like that. It actually just came to me because I really like doing theater acting. So in high school, I did plays and I did hosting gigs. So I was always like the host of like a talent show or hosting some pep rally or something like that. And I really loved that stuff. And I was like, maybe I could try to do something like this full time or like, part time or whatever. So after high school, in high school, I started to seek out what can I do in this sort of entertainment sort of thing. I wanted to do a hosting gig. So I Googled, hey, how can I be a host of whatever, right? I don't remember how, I was like 16. I was like Googling how to be a host. And some school came up. It was like a school for entertainers, like actors, models, and that kind of thing. So I was like, okay, maybe I could do that. So I entered the school. I ended up paying some money or whatever for it. And I was in acting class. So I went into the school and I said, hey, I want to do hosting and, whatever else you guys offer. Like I like acting too, so it seems like I could do that. And the lady, I forget her name, but she looked at me. She's like, you can also be a model. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm not here for that. I just want to be an actor. She's like, no, you need to do modeling. Like, you need to do this, and then you can come back to acting because you have the look or whatever. And I was like, sweet. All right. How do I do that? So at the same time I was like trying to acting classes, I was also in modeling classes. So Sundays I was an actor, and then Wednesdays I was like a model trainee. Like, I was getting runway tips and all that kind of stuff, and I actually liked that. So I ended up, and this is going back to acting, I actually went towards the modeling route. Acting kind of went away for a little while because modeling started taking off. And what I mean by that is that school introduced me, well, we were in a showcase. So in the school, like, there was, we trained all year to do the showcase. And the showcase was where we pretty much present our talents to agents and managers and stuff like that. So I wasn't the only, well, the thing was that modeling agents liked me. There was a bunch of modeling agents that liked me and no acting agents. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm doing that. I asked my teacher, hey, which one of these modeling agents should I go with? And everyone said the same one. Everyone said go with these people. And it turned out to be Wilhelmina. This was one of the biggest agents at the time. This was like 7 years ago. And I ended up joining Wilhelmina at 17. And from there, they introduced me to my acting agent, because I told them I wanted to do acting. Like, this modeling is cool or whatever, like, I'm booking and all that kind of stuff is fun, but my heart is in the acting. So after like a couple of months, they said, okay, we'll introduce you to HRI, which was my agent at the time. I signed with them and I started doing commercials and started really taking my acting career seriously. And yeah, that's pretty much how it got started.
That's awesome. Well, I guess you kind of answered a little bit of my next question in that, which was going to be, in your introduction, you introduced yourself as Frank the model.
One of my friends, they referred to me as Frank the model looking guy, because everyone would be like asking, about Frank and, who was that guy or whatever. Not like I was some popular dude or anything like that, but everyone.
Sure.
Yeah. No, it wasn't like that. They're just like, who is this guy? And they're like, you talking about Frank, the green-eyed, like 6-foot guy, the model-looking guy, right? And that's where it came from. It became Frank, the model-looking guy, and I just cut off the looking guy part and stuck with Frank the model.
Tell me about being a kid.
Okay. So I come from a really, really loving family. I'll start there. So my parents, they gave me everything that I could have imagined that I've ever wanted. So that was really where my beginnings came from, like, really loving family. I am a child with 3 sisters. I'm the only boy in the family or whatever besides my dad. So there was a lot of female energy growing up. All good. I love women. Because of that, I feel like I've grown to like respect women and like really understand them. So that is a blessing, even though when I was a kid, I was like, man, I want somebody to play with. I want somebody to wrestle, stuff like that. But yeah, so that never came true. But like I said, it is a blessing, like being able to like really, really understand and identify with women's struggles and stuff like that. So that was my childhood. I was a jock, high school, middle school. I did play basketball and volleyball. So that I did have that side in me. And that's where a lot of my friend groups come from, is like, from sports and stuff like that. So that is where I am. That's, how I grew up. South Central LA, wasn't always the safest place to be. So, between staying at home with the women and being out in the sports, I kind of stayed away from all the other stuff that could happen, thankfully. And I thank my parents for that as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure that it is an interesting tug of war between what certain friends are doing and what other friends are doing, right?
Yes, 100%.
Want to talk about any of that?
All right. So I never really talked about this, I guess. So I guess there wasn't very.
Did you honestly think we were going to sit here and talk about Frank the model the whole entire time?
Yeah, no. So I guess the way I see it is it was an interesting like dichotomy in my life. Like, on one side, I was into the sports in school. I'm really into school. I like math and, like I like learning and got degrees and all that kind of stuff. So that was one side of my life and, the acting and modeling and all that kind of stuff. But the other side was me wanting to have fun. And I saw the people who were having the most fun around me actually ended up being like the people in the streets, essentially. So like the people with like gang ties, that kind of thing. It always fascinated me. I grew up in where the Crips started, I believe, like the Bloods and the Crips. So it always like, that was on my street, in my neighborhood where all this started. And, I always grew up listening to stories from my uncles and aunts and stuff like that, telling me about, how it started and everything like that. So it always fascinated me. So when I became 17 and 18 and I was actually able to hang out with these guys, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. So it was really, really scary, very, very scary. But it was fun. We would go to parties, we would just be out doing all types of stuff. There'd be girls and everything like that. So, that was a fun thing, but I almost died. I had a near-death experience within that. And from there, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not. I wasn't cut for this lifestyle here. Let me go back to the math and the other stuff over here. So yeah.
You want to talk about that?
I just had like a gun to my face. In the wrong part of town at the wrong time of night, and so that was really, really scary. Actually, my green eyes kind of saved me in that situation. So I'll tell you real quick. So
only if you want to.
Yeah, it's fine. So I was going to my friend's house in the neighborhood or whatever, and I was getting some stuff out of my trunk. I was like, I don't know, playing Xbox, something like that, trying to get all the stuff out of the trunk. And some car comes around the corner, turns his lights off, looks, he's driving at me, he's real slow, that kind of thing, slows down. And I see the person has like a bandana over their head and you can only see their eyes. And I'm like, okay. Because I had no idea. And I look down at myself and I'm like, oh my God, I'm wearing the wrong color. Like my high school basketball, like I just got out of practice. So I had my whole school color on, which was not the right color to be wearing in that sort of neighborhood sort of thing. And I'm in my trunk in front of this person's like house or whatever. So, or in there, on their street or whatever. So the person drives, turns their lights off, looking at me with this bandana. And then I see the gun kind of come up like this from under the car. And I'm just looking at the barrel of the gun, like down the barrel. I'm like, oh my God, this is like, what's going on? Like, I just kind of froze. And I see the guy kind of looking at me like this. He's like staring at me. Turns out that was actually somebody that I knew. And he ended up recognizing me just because I had my green eyes. He was like, you're the only person I've seen with green eyes like that's around here. And so that's how I knew it was you. And that's like why I left. So funny time, funny story, that whole thing happened and we all moved on. But at the time I was like, yeah, no, I can't be part of this.
Yeah, that would freak me out.
That was like the thing that got me out of that and then put me towards like, the modeling and acting. I'm just like, yeah, let me just do this 100% because I know life is short. That was really the lesson I got out of that.
And that was exactly the question I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you how old you were and what that changed for you. So that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I was 17.
Yeah. So you use that experience to turn and pivot on your back foot and focus on all the right things that are making you Frank the model and making you happy in who you are today. Tell me something that would surprise people to know about you.
In general, my life is surprising to a lot of people because I started modeling and acting at like 17 and like never really did anything else besides that. So when I tell people, hey, when I ask people, what do you do? Oh, I'm like a software engineer. Oh, I'm like a marketing director, whatever. And then I'm like, oh, I'm like an actor and model. And they're like, what? So that's one interesting thing, I guess, if you didn't know me. But talking to me now, I guess another interesting thing, I guess, would be that I really, really love math. I mentioned this, but a lot of people don't know that I am like really, really into math. Like I do math tutoring. I've studied math. I take classes for fun in math. Like I've taken like advanced topology and stuff like that, just for fun, like for no reason, just like just taking the class. Same thing with linear algebra and calculus and stuff like that.
I love math too. Math was my favorite subject.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, it was my favorite.
All right, we're here. We're
Yeah.
here.
I got you. Let's get back to the acting and the modeling and how you said that it's started when you were 17 and it's really never let go, which is really impressive and exciting. And I'm very happy for you. Tell me about your recent project, because I know personally I got to watch Bag of Tricks, which you were just in. So tell me about it. I loved it, by the way. Loved it.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I had a similar love for the script when I first saw it. So a buddy of mine, Ray, he is a producer on Bag of Tricks. And me and Ray, we go back a couple of years to college, and we were, used to hang out and stuff like that. I actually know him through one of my good friends in college. So I met Ray in college. We'd been hanging out. We talked all the time about, we're interested in like stocks and all that kind of stuff. So me and him, we always talking. He finally hit me up. He's like, "Hey Frank, well, I got a project for you. I don't know if the director's gonna like you, but hey, look, read the script. If you like it, I'll try to set you up a meeting with the director, Mike." I'm like, okay. Read the script, loved it. It brought me back. I love horrors as well, horror films. So it brought me back to like my original love for horrors, because I hadn't been on, I've been watching a lot of comedies and stuff like that. And I was like, this is a really, really well-written script. So from there, I'm like, yeah, tell the director I would love to meet him. A couple of weeks later, a couple days later, I talked to Mike. A couple of weeks after that, I'm on the set. Mike liked me, and I'm now Ryan in Bag of Tricks. I loved every minute of the shoot. Everyone on the set was really cool. Everyone was like, we're all trying to get the same sort of result. And it was just a very, very cool experience being on a set ran by people that are all sort of really friendly. Let's start there, because that's not always the case. And you're not really, it was also that was one of my first experiences as like the lead character in something. So everyone's kind of like waiting on me, hand and foot sort of thing. Not like, getting me beverages, but more like, this whole thing is dependent on you. Like this whole thing is dependent on you and this girl, and you pretty much have to make it work. So I took it upon myself to really, really try to focus, really, really try to do the best I could. And I think it came out decent. Pretty decent.
I think it's more than decent. I really like it. I want to touch on a few things that you said as we near the end of our time here today. But the one thing you said is that, your first time being the lead in something, and you really kind of were, like you said, quote unquote, waited on hand and foot. But you kind of mean by that is the depending on you, right? And the fact that it is literally waiting on you. Not necessarily, like you said, bringing you sodas and things, but they're waiting on you. It's your opinions, right? It's your feedback. And how do you think that went?
Right, 100%.
How did you feel? Oh, sorry.
No. They were asking me like, what do you think about the lighting in this shot? And like everything was like, has to run by me, which was a cool feeling.
And that's what I was going to ask you is, how did you feel in that moment? Like, how did that lead role, how did that change any of your views? Did that change anything that you felt about yourself, any of your confidence?
Yeah, I never thought about it, but it totally did. I wanted to say that when I do modeling, I'm the lead guy sort of, but there's only really like me, maybe a photographer, maybe like 2 or 3 other people around, which, that's kind of how modeling goes if you've never done modeling or anything like that. There's not a whole bunch of people on set like it is for a movie. When it's a movie, there's like 3 different light people, there's like sound people, there's all these different people working, there's like production assistants trying to make things work, just set designers and writers and all that kind of stuff. So is a totally different experience because you can be the lead guy when there's like 4 guys and everyone's just, yeah, like, you know, we'll do it, right, when it's modeling. But when there's like, no, we're on a time schedule and we have to get this shot and like everything is like paid for and all that kind of stuff, it's like a totally different like energy, totally different thing. So yes, it definitely changed my confidence a lot. So I now see myself more as the lead guy in other things. I see myself being that person in like other films coming up, future things that I work on. I no longer see myself as like the background guy, which I always thought I was. I have like a false sort of confidence. Like I'm not really like all in your face. I'm more of like the guy in the back, like, kind of just hanging out, just like, that's what I like and who I am. Not really in your face like that. And I guess that comes from like my sisters and stuff like that. Like, we're sort of, me and my sisters, we're all sort of like, we're at the party, but, we're not really going to be the ones in the middle of the dance floor and things like that. So I've always liked being in the shadows, but forcing me to be this lead character has now made me think, okay, I can probably do this, and I'm probably going to have to do this for like the rest of my career here. So definitely
That's not a bad thing, right?
Yeah, no, I love it. I am excited for the future.
I'm excited for you. And I am so glad I asked you that question because I loved your answer and I loved seeing you work through that answer and the smile that came out on your face. So I think that's incredible. And I love that people who are watching that may not be in your same field can relate because I'm sure you've seen them, but had my interview with Michael Coloumbe. I had the interview with Brantley, and I had another interview with another one of their colleagues, Marco Parra, and we talk about acting. People don't think about it as a job, as a business, as a career, and this is your work, right? They think of more of the people that go punch a clock or put on a suit and tie every day as the job people with the careers. And it's same with the people that may work and start in the mailroom. When they get that opportunity to make a presentation and the confidence that they get from doing that is like, yes, I can. And I'm not just going to hand out your mail every day. I can do this part too. 100%. So I that's what I got from what you said.
100%. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. The exact same thing. If you start somewhere and you're working towards something, you finally get a little taste of it, you have to keep like, it'll raise your confidence. It'll propel you to the next thing.
Well, congratulations. I am so happy for you.
Thank you very much.
And we've been talking for quite some time this morning, and I really appreciate and am grateful. Is there anything that you would like to share about your story that I may not have dug up with my big shovel today? Before I ask you our final question?
No, I mean, I think you pretty much know all of Frank.
Our final question, Frank the model. If, as you walk down the street, maybe on set, whatever makes you happy, as you're walking and you could hold up one sign that says one thing about Frank, what would you want people to know about you?
I would say something like, it's not as easy as it looks.